You've heard of Casey at the bat and Casey's cable dote, but now it's time to write the rhyme of Casey's billy goat. But Casey had a billy goat he gave the name of Seamus, for as the neighbor said, 'twas a national disgrace. And sure enough, that goat was eminently famous for masticating every shred of laundry around the place. From skirts to shirts, it prodigiously proved its powers of chewing. The question of digestion seemed to matter not at all. But I'm sure that you'll agree with me that its limits of misdoing reached the day it swallowed Miss Rodney's old red shawl. Now, Miss Anne Rodney was a winsome widow woman, and many bouncing boy had sought to make her change her name. And living just across the way, as I'm sure it's only human, a lonely man like Casey would wish for the same. So every Sunday, shined and shaved, he'd make the fine occasion to call upon the lady, and she'd take his hat and coat, and sup on tea and look that she may yield to his persuasion. But alas, he hadn't counted on that devastating goat. For Seamus loved his master with blind and dumb devotion, and everywhere that Casey went, that goat would want to go. And I'm not one to judge a quadruped's emotion, but they say that Baste was jealous, and I reckon it was so. For every time that Mr. Casey went to call on Miss Rodney, beside the gate the goat would wait, woefulness intense, until one day it looked there fast becoming swoony, when Seamus spied that old red shawl a-flutter on the fence. Now Miss Rodney loved that shawl beyond any rhyme or reason, judging by the way she wore it season after season. It was as precious to her as a product of Kashmir. So Seamus strode beside it, no doubt the color pleased him. So he biffed at it and sniffed at it as most any goat might do. Then his sense of melancholy vanished, and a sense of hunger seized him, and he wagged his tail in rapture and started in to chew. "Better your daisy," said the doting Mr. Casey to the blushing widow as they parted at the door. "And with your tenderness a-dazing, you set me heart a-blazing, and I dread the day I don't see me Annie any more." "Oh, stop your blarney," said the widow softly sighing, and she went to pull his whisker. Then dismay at her bosom smote. Her old red shawl 'twas missing from where she'd left it safely drying, and then she saw it disappearing down the neck of Casey's goat. Fiercely flamed her Irish temper. "Look," says she, "the knave and nibble, sure he makes me shawl his supper. Well, I hope it's to his taste, because excuse me, Mr. Casey, if I seem to be uncivil, for I shall never wed a man with such a misbegotten baste." So she slammed the door and left him standing in a state of consternation, and he couldn't understand it till he saw the grinning goat. Then with eloquence he cussed it, and his final fermentation was a poem of profanity impossible to quote. Then, blasting goats and petticoats and feeling downright sinful, despairfully he wandered down to Shinnigan Shabeen, and straightforwardly proceeded to absorb a mighty skinful of Shinnigan's deadliest variety of potent tea. And it was the early morning before they set for home. Seamus followed faithful, a yard behind his back. Then of a sudden Casey slipped and stumbled, and crumpled like a lump of lead across the railway track. And there he lay serenely, defying power to budge him, responding like a baby, his head upon the rail. Now Seamus seemed unhappy, and from time to time would nudge him, and though his prods of protestation were without the least avail, then to that beastly mind a sense of fell disaster came stealing like a spectre in dim and dreary dawn. As his bleats of warning blended with the snoring of his master, in a chorus of calamity, but Casey slumbered on. Oh, that goat was troubled, for his efforts were redoubled. Now he nibbles at his whisker, now he nibbles at his ear, now he bellows like a foghorn, with fear becoming bolder. And up and down the railway line he scampered for assist, only to hurry back, to pull his master from the track. Then, in the distance, the roar and rumble of fast approaching train. Did Seamus faint nor falter? No, he stood there stark and splendid. True, his tummy was distended, but he gave his horns a toss. With them his goathood honor would be gallantly defended, and if their valor failed him, he would perish with his boss. Can you see the hearse-style hero standing there in tragic glory? Can you hear the Pullman porter shrieking honor to the sky? No, you can't, for my story has no end so grim and gory. For Seamus did not perish and his master did not die. At this very present moment, Casey swaggers, hale and hearty, and Seamus strides beside him, bright bell at his throat. And the recent Mrs. Romney is the gayest of the party, for now she's Mrs. Casey, and she's crazy for that goat. Well, you're wondering what happened, and I'll tell you truth as stranger than the wildest variety of fiction, so I'll tell you without shame. There stood Casey in the face of awful danger, with a roaring locomotive coming down in smoke and flame. What power on earth could have saved them? To beasts and gods alike may come a brilliant inspiration, and to the brutish brain a thought was born. The old red shawl. Then rising in elation, like lightning Seamus threw it up and flanged and stopped the train.